Well, welcome to TBD Philosophy, you guys. I have decided that I dig that title, that name. I think I will keep it. I might change my mind last minute someday, sometime, but for now, I'm feeling like going with it. My goal and mission today, Tanner and Caleb, is to try and convince both of you that altruism doesn't exist. It's dead.
Really?
Bum, bum, bum.
What would you say?
Yeah.
What was your definition of altruism, would you say?
Yeah,
Well,
do tell. Unless you're going to get into that.
we are definitely going to get to that point. However, before we do, I'm going to propose a statement to you that seems much less controversial and spicy. And I'm going to try to get you to say yes to it. And once you say yes, I'm going to show that it's just a small mental jump and altruism is going to be dead. So I'm excited. Isn't that great? Just a little bit of
Interesting.
manipulation, maybe, but it's going to be so fun.
Yeah,
Sounds
let's do
good.
it.
All right, so I am showing my screen right now. Can you guys see the slide that I'm looking at?
I can, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this statement in all decisions, all of them, 100%, you always pick what you think will bring you the most amount of happiness and or avoid the most amount of pain. This is kind of the statement that I want to try to sell you guys on. When I've talked to people about this before, I feel like normally the easiest way to do it is hear your guys' objections first, and then I can try to refute the objections. Kind of a bit of a Socratic method going on. I have proposed my thought, and now I request you to crush my thought. And if you happen to just already agree, then I can play devil's advocate a little bit to just explain some more. But yeah, what's the initial impressions and thoughts?
I disagree on that one. I don't think 100% we do that. Like for war, for example. Going to war is obviously a big choice for a nation, and it neither brings happiness, but it does bring on lots and lots of pain. So what's your refute for that? Because war is something that eventually might lead to it, but in the beginning, it definitely reduces happiness and it increases pain.
That is an excellent point, and I will turn us over to the specific phrase in this comment of the most amount of happiness. That's how I think we can solve your question. I think that when a country goes
It's like
to
a cop
war,
out, though.
what?
That's totally a cop out.
I don't understand what you mean. When
Okay,
like
go ahead. Do your refutal.
okay, yeah. I mean, I think if you choose to go to war, you just think that the alternative is worse, right? That you're going to have less happiness, whether it's you want resources or you. Let's assume you're in Japan during World War II, and you're going to be a kamikaze pilot, and the thought of the disgrace and dishonor you would bring upon your family, that alone is worth you going and fighting, right?
What though? Because even with the disgrace and dishonor, you'd be there for your family. You could still provide, which I think would be happier. But
Well, Tanner, I think that as well. And I guess that's what I'm saying, that for those who choose to go be the kamikaze pilot, they thought otherwise. Ultimately, whether you chose to go or chose to stay, the important part is that in both scenarios, you were trying to pursue happiness the most amount that you possibly could. Does that make sense?
So
I
it's
guess
more
what
the pursuit of happiness than bringing happiness. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, that's where the phrase "what you think will bring you" comes in, where yeah, we don't know how the outcomes will perfectly work out, and so we are doing our best. Um, and so even if we're put between a rock and a hard place, is that the right analogy? Or a wall and a
No, rock on a hard place is correct.
Mm-hmm.
rock? Okay, okay, great. Thank you. Even in those scenarios, we might not like our options, but the option we do end up picking is the one that we believe will bring us the most amount of happiness. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, is it always a selfish thing where it's what we believe will bring us the most amount of happiness, or is it a thing where like we do it because we think it will bring the most amount of happiness and joy in general?
Yeah. Like self-sacrificing for someone else's happiness, even if it means less for you.
That is such a beautiful thought and point. Um, let me. So I started on this slideshow. I'm sorry it's not going to be as beautiful for you guys. I was going to fix it more in post for the video. But so basically you're saying when you do something for someone else, is that right?
Yeah.
I would propose that the reason why you are sacrificing for someone else is because it's making you happy. That if you did not wake up and go to work every day, Tanner, to take care of Ari and Kyla, you would feel worse. Or if you did not smile at the students on your bus, Caleb, when they were getting loaded on and off, you would feel worse. That when we labor and sacrifice for another person, if it made us sad, I don't think we would do it. I don't think we do it. I can't think of an
Oh,
example when we would.
well, just to go back to the Bible, when Christ says, it's better not to give a gift grudgingly than it is, or it's better to give nothing than to give a gift grudgingly, which does imply that people do give gifts grudgingly and they do things like that because even though it won't make them happy, they do it out of obligation, right?
I I agree that that gifts can be given grudgingly. I just think that's another example of being stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think if you give a gift grudgingly, ultimately what you're saying is, I either can give this. Let's say it's a farewell gift for Ammon going on his mission. We're like, gosh dang it, we don't want to spend $2 on a gift for Ammon, but the social pressure of Ari, who absolutely loves Ammon and is wanting everyone to give him a gift before he goes, we would we want to appease that outside social pressure.
Interesting. So you think that because of the obligation, it would ease other areas, thus making us more happy?
Exactly. Yeah. That even when you give a gift grudgingly, you're still trying to pursue your happiness. You're just frustrated with the options you're given.
Interesting. So you still choose the happiest even if you're stuck in a different situation. Okay. I can see that. I think you're starting to convince me. I don't know if I'm 100% there, but
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think maybe a fun example that I found that I think is related to these things that we've talked about. Uh, Someone want to try to pronounce this for me? This name right here.
Okay, I'll give it a go. Saito Musashibo
I don't
Nekai. Oh my. Anyway, I probably butchered it, but that's the best as I can go.
That was a great effort, Tanner. And will you say that again, Caleb? That was pretty fun.
I said Saito Mushi Mushi Ban.
Oh, I thought you were actually trying.
No.
He's like some legendary Japanese warrior who single-handedly killed over 300 soldiers while defending a bridge so that his allies and lord could escape over the bridge, and he held the pass. And the theory is, not the theory, the legend says that they were never even were able to kill him through swordsmanship. They shot him full of arrows till he looked like a porcupine, and he died while standing. Dun dun
Man,
dun.
got real Boromir right here.
Yeah, truly. So the reason why I love this example is because I feel like it brings into account this self-sacrifice and ultimately to just the largest extreme, right? There's no greater extreme than giving up your life for someone. And I guess I'd propose two things out of this. The first thing that I would propose is that he thought it would be more miserable and more damning to his happiness if he fled and his lord was captured and killed. That's one hot take I have there. And another hot take that you guys have actually already alluded to. I think that from this example, we can actually define what love is. I think that love is when making other people happy make you happy.
I mean, what is the quote? Shared happiness is doubled, shared sorrow is halved, right?
What? I didn't know that quote. Tanner, what the heck? You're holding back on me.
Yeah, just a fun one. It just is, it just says that you got to share your happiness with people because it'll make you more happy, and sharing the burden just spreads it around.
Oh, well, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Not at all. So the next phase, well, I guess, yeah. Do you guys like this statement then? Is it acceptable?
I think it's acceptable in some respects. I think there's definitely some things. I feel like the wording of it makes it very hard to disagree with because it's like the most amount of happiness or avoid the most amount of pain, Whereas if it was like a absolute statement where it was like you will always choose what makes you happiest and avoid pain. But yeah, I think the most of is the key word there.
Well, I actually agree still with what you said, that you will choose what will. I guess I almost agree with what you said, that you will choose what will make you happy. I guess the only caveat is that we just don't always know what will make us the happiest.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but if we did know, I would believe this statement still, that we would only and always pick what would make us the happiest.
Mm-hmm. So this might be a tangent, but what about the guy from Dune, the Lisan al Gaib? He could see all the futures, right?
Okay.
And he chose the what was it? The jihad, kill billions of people across the universe, and he was miserable for the rest of his life, right? Even though he could see all the futures.
Rob Lee. I guess I don't remember Dune enough. I'm sorry.
I didn't. He was miserable.
Well, that's because it's in the books. It explains later on that he becomes a miserable hermit who starts preaching against his own religion. Yeah.
Oh,
really?
Anyway, there's a lot of backstory there, but that's just a tangent. We can move on.
Okay. Well, no, I feel like, I guess I'm starting to regret my decision of not making a detailed point by point flow slideshow. I definitely will next time. I was just feeling overwhelmed and I was getting too messy the thoughts in my own mind and I wasn't organized enough. But I think next time, if when I'm more organized and more detailed, we'll be able to have more in-depth and knowledgeable discussions like that.
Oh, we
Yeah.
can still do it now. Let's just keep going. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I guess I said I don't know enough. Yeah, I don't know enough to say because I feel like I remember it wasn't like he had like strong wisdom for like seeing the future, right? He just saw lots of possibilities or something.
Yeah. And the whole thing with him is that he eventually lost his eyes somewhere, but he was still able to fight and to move around and stuff because he could see the future in his head, and it was basically like just seeing with his mind. So like I said, that might not apply to this, and might not be productive to talk about it if we don't all have the full context.
Okay. Next time, Tanner, if you want to run on the topic, you lead the next discussion.
Sounds good.
Well, we're gonna do one other side pit stop before we kill altruism, but I'm gonna get down over to this slide right here. I got two nice quotes here from our good brother Joseph Smith. Would each of you be willing to read one of these paragraphs for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read that first one. It says, happiness is the object and design of our existence, and it will be the end thereof. We pursue that path that leads to it, and this path is virtue, uprightness, faithfulness, holiness, and keeping all the commandments of God.
All right. And then, as God has designed our happiness, he will never institute an ordinance or give a commandment to his people that is not calculated in its nature to promote that happiness which he has designed, and which will not end in the greatest amount of good and glory to those who become recipients of his law and ordinances.
My hot take with these, it's nothing new from what I've said, but more of an extra emphasis that I think even God only makes choices and only acts in the scenario that will bring him the most amount of happiness. And the reason why I think that is because that's how he's designing our lives, and our plan is to always be trying to maximize and work towards happiness. Does that feel extra taboo saying that that's even the case with God, or are we on board?
No, I do think that, men are that we might have joy, right? And
Yes.
I don't see why God, if God was like us, then why shouldn't he also feel the same way?
Very nice. Any opposition, Caleb, or thoughts, or
No, I was actually thinking of that exact same scripture that men are that they might have joy. And I agree. I think that joy definitely has a lot to do with it. But I also think that there is virtue in doing things that bring happiness just all on their own, not just doing them for the sake of feeling good, you know?
okay,
Can you give us an example?
Well,
Yeah,
for
yeah. What are you
example,
thinking?
God has commanded us to turn the other cheek to those that hate us. They've said that if someone asks us to travel a mile, to travel twain. And none of those things feel very good. You know, like if I've had people that are mean to me, and I don't really particularly want to be nice to them, but that is something that I think has virtue in and of itself because it builds a stronger character that is like unto Christ.
Which makes you happier, right?
I suppose in some ways it brings joy, but I mean, and then you have to get into the difference of what's the difference between joy and happiness.
Yeah,
Well,
fair.
I will try to take a stab at the examples you brought up, Caleb, and then I actually have a couple slides so we can talk about the difference of joy and happiness for a
Ooh.
hot take if we'd like.
Prepared, are we?
Trying. I feel half prepared, but it's okay. This is a work in progress, right, guys?
Amen.
Yeah, we're gonna be big time influencers someday. For now, we're just guys trying to lose weight. But someday, um, so my thought, my proposal with the commandment to walk twain when we are compelled to walk one, or to turn the other cheek, is I think that the potential happiness that I think that when we do that, when we turn the other cheek, or when we walk 20 miles when we're compelled for one, I think
Whoa, 20 miles? I don't know if I signed on for that much, man.
that's what it means, right? I think that's like the legit Roman law. Like Romans
Wait,
could walk
20
twain.
means 20?
I thought that's my understanding is like it was a legit. That's why Christ brought up that example, because it was like a legit Roman law that you could compel someone to carry your stuff for a mile, and like a soldier could force a citizen, some random person. I don't think a Roman citizen, but like a random Jew, but you could force him to carry his backpack for a mile or something like that. And so I think the twain is 20.
Well, I just looked it up because I'm picky like that. It says depending on how one
Brilliant.
translates this phrase, it might even mean walk with them another 2 miles, adding to a total of 3 miles.
Hmm.
Well, Caleb, you're spot on. You don't need to walk that far, man.
Great weight loss, though.
Okay.
Yeah, lose some great weight there.
Okay, so I think that when we do that action, we can help someone further along on their uh, journey towards God as well. And I guess the reason why I think that is I think there's no character who's more touching or has more power to convert than Christ for us. And I think the reason why is because we believe and have a faith and a hope that He has, that when we pray to God, we're not only able to receive power and aid for the small immediate pains in our lives, but He's trying to give us salvation. I guess it just fills. What's your guys' thoughts? I feel like just the narrative of hearing, and I feel like my own personal experience of when I feel like I've turned the other cheek, when I feel like someone has wronged me, it helps my own soul to forgive and forget and move on. And like Tanner said, it helps me be happier because I'm just letting it go. And B, I think that it opens up a power for you to touch another person's heart and to help them be like, whoa, really? I don't know. Did that make sense?
No, those
Yeah, it does. It does.
That's just what I believe. I feel like turning the other cheek is not some call to suffer for the sake of suffering, but it is an instruction of how to soften someone's heart. I guess like the anti-Nephi Lehi's to lay down their lives. I think converted the hearts of their murderers. So, I
Yeah.
guess again,
Still cause themselves personally great pain and suffering.
But they
I guess
found joy in and through that suffering.
decisions have prices that we need to pay, right? And there are choices that are a rock and a hard place. But in all, I think that in all decisions, and in rock and hard place or easy decisions, and in decisions where we have to pay a large price, we're still just trying to get happiness. That's all we're ever trying to get.
We're all just addicts to happiness.
Does that feel satisfactory to include even God in this ultimate motive?
Well, I mean, why else would he do it, right?
Isn't that funny? Like, I don't know. I guess normally when I talk to people about this, there's I feel like even more pushback than I've gotten from you guys. So woohoo! I think it means I'm getting better at sharing this thought. But you're so right, Tanner. In the process of talking about this, it's like, okay, so what's the alternative? The alternative is you're really saying, sometimes I make choices because I want to be sad, and it's trying to make me sad. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the closest case, I feel like the closest example you can get to that maybe is when someone chooses to commit suicide. I feel like in that case, they're in a state of mind where they feel so hopeless and incapable of obtaining happiness that for them, what they see as the greatest amount of happiness they can have is really to just avoid, not avoid, is to end their emotions altogether and to hope that nothing is better than the pain that they're feeling.
It also, well, I also know a big thing with that is people will feel like they're causing more pain simply by existing than by not. And so sometimes it's a misguided attempt at like trying to make the lives of those around them better as well.
Which is such a, that's such a painful and interesting viewpoint to hear, and it just makes you
Makes you feel for them.
want to weep, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely, I think, it definitely happens in women, but I think it's more prevalent in men for sure as well.
Agreed.
Men just, I don't think we get the same validation as women. I'm not trying to make this like a feminist or versus women thing, but just the statistics say that men are 4 times more likely to do that because they feel that hopeless.
Yeah, it's because men get their validation from what they provide, whereas women get their validation from what they are, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So women have this intrinsic value that's already like drilled into them, whereas men are told that they don't have any intrinsic value. It's what they do with what they're given that gives them that true value.
Well, men or women, I just really believe that we are all just trying to be happy, and I hope that from this podcast we're able to do better at that for ourselves and for our kids. Fingers crossed they actually listen to what we say. Well, and fingers crossed it's actually of any value. Huh, guys?
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
So I guess the next logical
Okay.
step, if this is for our kids, what are choices that we can make to be happy that are like modern and relevant, that we can do today,
Can I nip that in the bud and save it for later, Tanner?
Yeah, we can do that.
You're getting away with Toast's master plan.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, Joe, we lost your slideshow.
Oh, let me share that again. Yes. Broadcast. Okay. There we go. Okay. We're actually going to hop back some more and talk about your thought, Caleb. Joy versus happiness. And I want to be careful because I know that we have heard conference talks and heard church leaders talking about joy versus happiness and dividing them out. And I feel like oftentimes happiness or pleasure, right? I feel like oftentimes joy is seen as what you really want to go for, and it's the things you sacrifice for, yada yada yada. I want to propose that joy, happiness, pleasure, all these things in the attempt to and with this sentence that we're talking about, then all decisions you will that you think in all decisions you will always pick what you think will bring you the most amount of happiness. I think that happiness, joy, pleasure, all of those can be interchangeable in there. And I think trying to weed out or like divvy them up is kind of like trying to define the flavor of different salts. Not very possible, is what I think. Salt is salt, right? And there's not really much to compare salt to. And I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know how to say it, just good vibes, positiveness, goodness, whatever makes us smile more. That's what we're always going for. And when we hear a conference talk or someone else divvying up the definitions of happiness or joy, I think they're trying to create a structure for us to understand our reasons and outcomes more for our choices. But I think no matter how you slice the cake, you're trying to get more happy. And how do you define happy? I don't think you can. I don't think you can define emotions. They can only be experienced. You just feel them, you know? How do you know you're angry? You're mad. Like, don't say like define anger. Anger is mad. I don't if you actually Google right now the definition of happiness on Google, it says like the state of being happy. Like it doesn't work. It's just that it's an experience that we have. So
Interesting.
that's my hot take on joy versus happiness. I think that you can split those things up, and people do for like productive reasons. But I think what they're trying to do is just create a framework for their discussion that they want to have, right? Oftentimes, happiness is the short term, and joy is the long term thing that you sacrifice for, or joy is spiritual feelings of goodness, or joy is the love of God. All those things, like does it make sense why I don't think it matters what word you use? That we're just working towards that goodness, whatever label you want to put on it.
Fulfillment or happiness, joy, whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Whatever label. The label is not so important. I guess now that we got that down, that we mostly agree on this slide in all decisions, you always pick what you think will bring you the most amount of happiness or joy or whatever you are going for. I think we can now say that altruism is dead. And I feel like we just got there naturally. Why? Because I think that you're always acting to make you happy. Now, I think Caleb, you asked way in the beginning, how do you define altruism? And I think now we can maybe talk about that a little first to finally kill this thing. I have
Yeah, sure.
I have a dictionary definition, but I would also love to hear your guys's connotative definitions, because I feel like in my experience when I've talked with people, most people's connotative definition is different from this dictionary definition. And so we can talk about both. But yeah, how would you guys personally define it, you think?
When I think of like an altruistic person, it's someone that like donates money to a charity or is kind to other people, like doing things for other people at your own expense, I guess is what I would say it is. You know, whether it's
Okay.
time or money or whatever.
I really appreciate the one sentence definition. That really helps with actually understand what you're saying. So when you do something at your own expense for someone else, is that is what you were saying, right, Tanner?
Yeah, I would say that that's probably what I think of when I think of an altruistic person.
And Caleb, do you like that too? Do you want to propose a different one?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was even something that's done at the expense of someone else. I would just say that it's something that's done for someone else.
But that comes at a cost to yourself, whether that's time or money, you know? Like if you go rake someone else's leaves, that's your time that you're giving to them.
I mean, we all have things we choose to do with our time, and I think that's just a choice of what to do with your time.
Well, in order to do something, anything for other people, you have to give up something of your own.
Yeah, I just don't. Okay, sorry. For my personal definition, I don't think that self-sacrifice is included with that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I will propose my own connotative definition as well, and then we can go over the dictionary one. My definition is doing something for nothing is, I think, the shortest way that I would say it. Or
I like
or
that definition.
something without expectation for something. And I guess we'll talk about your definition first, Tanner, since you gave it first. And I think all three of these definitions are things people definitely use. I think that when you donate a bunch of money to a charity, like I don't think like it's at your expense, but I don't know, you're giving money to an orphanage. I think that you find happiness in giving money to the orphanage, like the thought of the people you're helping. And if you did not, I don't think you'd give the money. I don't know, is that fair to say that I think ultimately you're still just trying to make yourself happy, even in the act of donating money to an orphanage?
Yeah, but that's still altruism. You're still giving. Like you said, you could do something or nothing. You could do nothing. And I would say that's the opposite of altruism. But if you do give something, then that's still putting in some effort. Even if it does end in your happiness, you're still giving.
Okay. Well, I guess then I think this earlier, Tanner, you were accusing me of kind of being a little Weasley with my definitions. And I think that right now, this is probably about as Weasley as I'll get on the decision, and why I think I don't know. I at the end when I talk about this, it is not uncommon for people to just be like, "What the heck, Joseph? You just burnt an hour of my life." But um, I think that the reason, the so what of this discussion, is that it is doing ourselves a disservice to assume that we are doing things for other people to remove ourselves from our intent by saying, "Oh, it's not what I really want." Why? Well, I guess going back to our definition of love, I think if when we if we were to give money to an orphanage and we were to say, it makes me happy you see these orphans happy, I guess I don't know, it feels like greater ownership of our intentions and the character we want to have, to say it's the right thing, right? Oh, it's the right thing to give money away. I feel like you're removing yourself from responsibility, and or if you say, oh, it's the right thing to do, so I have to do it, you're admitting that you're giving in to social pressures around you, and ideally you wouldn't want to do this act of service. I don't know, is that making sense? I think that's what I think you're right, Tanner, that when people are saying altruism, that's what they're going for, and I guess that's why I don't like it and why I think altruism should be dead. Because I think if we are always thinking that what I'm doing is I'm trying to make myself happy, it just creates more ownership in our lives, and we take more responsibility for our choices and more intentional in our acts of service towards others. Do you think? Or am I just being weaselly with words?
Well, I mean, if we go back to the kamikaze pilot, right? It's the same thing, you know? He feels the outside pressure to do it, you know? Even if it doesn't make him happy personally, he's going to do it because of that outside pressure. So, I don't know. I still think people can be altruistic because of the duty of the outside pressure, you know, of that feeling. In fact, I think it's a good thing because overall, if it does make you happy to give, but you also feel a duty to do it, then that's fine. But if you give solely out of duty and you don't get any kind of fulfillment from it, then there really isn't a point, right?
Good hot take. Solid. You have any thoughts, Caleb? I'm kind of bulldozing both you guys for a while now.
No, I have nothing to add. I'm really liking kind of what the conversation, the way it's going.
Okay. If I guess
just don't think altruism is dead, Joe. I think people can still be kind and loving and still be happy because of it.
I guess to try to shorten my thoughts, Tanner, I think that doing something because it's the right thing to do feels like you're being acted upon, whereas doing something because you want to feels like you are an actor. I don't know, does that?
No, I get that. Yeah. You want to have a choice in things. And
yeah, well, I guess I guess by saying, oh, it's the right thing to do, I have to, my duty says so, I guess I feel like you are removing yourself from your choice and you aren't taking ownership over your life. And I think it can go the opposite way too, to where I think when you say, I'm helping you because helping you makes me happy, like your happiness is what brings me happiness. I don't know, that just sounds like such a friendship, you know, to know that you're just the simple fact of your joy can make someone else happy.
No, I agree with that.
Did that swing you anymore at all, or am I just?
I still think you can. I think you could still be altruistic and do it for the sake of other people. But I guess we never read off the definition of altruism based on like Merriam-Webster, you know. So what's the definition?
Okay, so this is the. I think we were pretty close to it, pretty much on just a tomato-y kind of deal. This is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. In my time as barely getting through my philosophy degree, I grew the impression that it is about as authoritative of a source as you can get in the world of philosophy. And it says that behavior is normally described as altruistic when it is motivated by a desire to benefit someone other than oneself for that person's sake.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense.
So I guess when I read it, I would say the reason why I reject it is because I think you're wanting to benefit another person for your own sake. That you benefiting them makes you happy. And that's my disgruntlement with it.
Well,
But
I think
I
you
don't know,
can share it. I think you can make someone else happy and still receive joy from it. I don't know. I think that I think that's okay. I think it's part of the human experience to do something for someone else and feel good about it.
Well, I guess I mostly agree with that. I guess I question whether you really can do it for someone else, or what does that even mean? Can you really escape your desire to be happy? That one I'm not as sure on. But
Right. So you're trying to say, like, is it really truly helping someone else if you're just doing it like to be happy yourself? Which is a good point.
well, no, my question is it possible to do anything that's not for your sake? Like, I guess
Because eventually
that's why
everything comes back to you.
yeah, that's why that's why I had that statement, that sentence in the beginning. I think every choice we make, we're trying to make ourselves happy. I think with even God, the very plan that he designed, he's just trying to make us happy, and we're just trying to be happy. But
Okay.
I
I
don't
think
know.
I'm understanding now.
I feel like I've put you guys through the ringer, and you've let me say this thing like 3 or 4 different times now, and I feel like I've been able to get my piece out on this, my 2 cents. Is there any closing thoughts or statements you guys would like to conclude with? I'll let y'all get the final word in, since I've been just nonstop talking.
No, you're good. I feel like this has been a good discussion. I still think you could be altruistic. I even if it does come back to you, which most things do, you do it so that you can feel good about yourself and all that, but you're still doing something for someone else, whether that comes back to you or not. It still is helping the other person. And so, in my opinion, even if it does make you happy and you're doing it purely for yourself, it still does help someone in the end.
Any last 2 cents from you, Caleb?
I agree. I say viva la altruism, because I think that honestly, it still is something that in the end brings a lot of value to people, regardless of motivation. I think motivation matters a lot less than the actual action.
Well, I will wave my white flag of defeat then. Bravo, gents. I will attempt to brainwash you guys another time, another day, on a different topic. Maybe a year from now, we can do a 2.0 on this discussion, and I will
see if our thoughts have changed.
Yeah, I'll check in to see if you guys have reached enlightenment yet. But for now, it has been such a joy on TBD Philosophy. And yeah, we'll catch all the listeners next time.
Yeah, feel free to like and subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button. Absolutely smash the like button. Let's go. We're getting into 100,000 subscribers this month. So please subscribe. Thank you so much.
That's right. Yeah.
Amen.